Mark Talanoa and his young family live a quiet life in the rural Canterbury settlement of Tuahiwi.
I'm one of the very lucky ones to turn my life around, and oh my goodness, that it's tough, it's tough.
These days are a far cry from his time on the streets of Sydney, dealing drugs and shooting at a gang president's house, which ultimately saw him behind bars.
I was young, reckless, making stupid decisions on the drugs and alcohol.
The 36-year-old reinvented his life and now dedicates his days to helping young people at risk of entering the justice system.
Let's go!
But because of his time in prison, he isn't eligible for a clean slate. His record will be visible to employers for life.
The Clean Slate Act is from 2004, and the idea is that if you've done relatively minor offending and you've lived a clean and non-criminal life since then, that you should be able to wipe the slate clean, as it were, and start again without the burden of a criminal record.
He says the Act works well for the relatively small number of people it applies to, but there is one key issue.
I would like to expand its scope, so I think it's really unfortunate that it doesn't cover people who've spent time in prison.
Adrian Pritchard has also struggled since he was released from prison in the 90s, unable to get work, despite moving away from crime entirely.
If you've been to prison or you haven't been to prison, if you stay out of trouble for 7 years, a clear 7 years, you should be able to honestly say you've got a clean slate.
Pritchard volunteers in prisons now, supporting people to reintegrate into the community as they are released. He says the clean slate legislation not extending to ex-prisoners was hindering their motivation to rehabilitate. 3 News has spoken to 2 other people who, despite turning their lives around, are still being constantly rejected for jobs. A woman in prison 20 years ago for drug charges still can't get work, despite being both skilled and qualified. And a man jailed more than 30 years ago was dismissed on day 2 of a new job once his voluntary criminal record check landed in the hiring manager's inbox. Experts say it is time for the Act to be updated.
In other countries like the UK, like Australia, or even California, you can have prison sentences expunged from your record, and I think that would be a really great advantage to people who are trying to get back on the straight and narrow after a time inside.
Justice Minister Paul Goldsmith says he couldn't comment on any specific cases of judicial decision, but he was receiving advice on the Act more generally and may consider potential reforms when resourcing allows. Everyone 3 News spoke to for this story agreed there needed to be limitations on any expansion to the Act, such as excluding those with histories of sexual offending against children, or extreme violence. But for many, a second chance is all they need to meaningfully contribute to society.
They always think a leopard can't change his colours. Well, guess what? You've got one here. I can change. People can change.
And if you're out here and you're really wanting to make a change, really wanting to turn your life around for the better, for yourself, for your family, for your community, we need that shot.
For Mark, his record, a never-ending punishment, one that began at the gate.